Hello folks, this is a little tutorial on how to make first edition world style icons in Worldographer. I'm Joe Watson, the creator of the program. What you're seeing is a blank screen after you've just started up Worldographer after installing it and so forth. I had this question from somebody how to make these maps and wanted to go over and give a little tutorial on it. Built into Worldographer are a small number of don't want to use the game world that it's from, but the first edition world style maps. There's a few icons that would match up with that built into the program, but we also have a number in a separate map icon pack. And what you should do is once you've downloaded that, if you're using those extra ones, then by all means, try this out with just the initial ones to make sure that you kind of get it and are getting the look that you want, or can imagine that you're going to get the look that you want with a larger number of icons. Anyway, so Worldographer has this thing where you can have a Worldographer folder in your user folder, and it will automatically look there and add any features, terrain, and textures that you put in these subfolders that you create. So you have to create these folders if you want them to be used. So in our case, these first edition world icons need to be treated as features, even though they would represent terrain in most cases, where you've got your different mountain icons and forest icons and so forth. We need to treat them as features because they're not really intended to be tied to a particular hex. They're intended to kind of span across multiple hexes or to not be centered in hexes, whereas the base icons that are built that are usually used with Worldographer are in fact tied to the center of the hexes in most cases. So with that out of the way, what you would do is you would create this Worldographer folder in your user folder. And we work on Linux and Mac as well, so you would look for the equivalent of that. And then create that features folder. In this case, we don't really care as much about the terrain and textures for these icons. Anyway, you then would create a large area folder, and this is just going to help us with filtering in the Worldographer when we get to it, and you'll see that in a moment. So then I would create this large area, and then I would drop all of the new icons in that icon pack. That icon pack has two subfolders: core, which are ones that are already built into Worldographer, if I can recall correctly, and then this additional icon set, these additional ones that are new icons, is what the folder is when you download that pack. And you're going to copy that whole folder over and rename it large area, or create the large area and copy the individual icons into this folder, and then they'll be available in the software. So with that setup out of the way, let's go ahead and we're going to create a new actually, before I quite get to that, let me add in that you can change that configuration folder. You can show where it's located, and so this will pop up and show you where the default is set to, and then you can also change it. So if you don't want that location, or if you don't have permissions, or something weird is happening, whatever, you can do that. You can also add custom features. You can click. This will give you a file chooser, and you can choose a bunch of things. I didn't select any, so that's why the message is telling me 0 were added. But you can also add them individually with that tool as well. So let me go ahead and create a basic map. Just generate one really quickly. These are, as far as I recall, these are the default settings. I certainly haven't done anything special. I think it is 100 hexes wide and high, and 50 high by default. Generate a map, and this is going to be in the other style, and you can see that we've got this way off to the side. Now if you don't like that, if you don't like those to the side, if you have the Pro version, you can actually remove hexes from one side and then add new columns of hexes on the other side, so that your continent won't be split off in the middle. But if it's also just something that you're generating on the fly, there's nothing stopping you from just go ahead and generate another one and And this time we actually do get something where all of the all the continents are in the main area. Nothing is cut off. So that's kind of good. There is a little bit of logic behind that to prevent things from being cut off, but sometimes it still happens. It's kind of a fuzzy math there, because we don't want to enforce too much. We don't want to make it a strict rule. Anyway, so now I've got this. How do I get from here to a first edition world style map? Well, if you remember your first edition world style maps, and if you're looking at this video, you probably know it pretty well. Some of the key differences: you still have a hex-based terrain. In fact, I'm going to turn on the grid, just so you can see that. And you can configure the grid too, by the way, with this configure icon next to that. And you can set the thicknesses or change the colors, or you can even go into custom color and you can say, you know what, I want it to be semi-transparent instead. Okay, and so I want them a little bit more subtle. I don't want a dark black line, or you could do a gray as well. But anyway, so if you're familiar with the other maps really well, or you can do a quick web search and find examples, but you're going to recall that you don't have these mountain icons. Yes, you've got this mountain color, but you don't have these icons like this. You've got a different icon set. Same thing for forests. You don't have the forest, you have a different icon set. The hills, likewise. Grasslands actually does use a similar icon, so we can kind of go either way on that. Same with marsh, I believe, is something similar, but it's not as fixed. So we can get into the details of that as well, depending on how long we want this demo to run. Anyway, so the next step to do then is to get rid of those icons in a lot of cases. So now we can go up to configure terrain, and we're going to select the classic because this is what we call the classic icon style. These basic D&D or BECMI, I don't know what term you want to use for them without using the name of the game world, but we're gonna go ahead and pull up this editor or configuration thing, and we're going to turn off the icons. We could technically probably turn off the icons for all of them, but I'm just going to focus on the ones that I know that we're going to mess with right now, that we're going to be replacing right now. And we're going to be doing some of the forest things now. You'll see that in a little bit. And, the grassland stuff. I think that we have a replacement icon for those. I hadn't looked at that before doing this demo, before setting this up. We definitely want to change the hills. We want to change, we'll just to be sure, I'm not sure if we're going to change these or not, but we'll uncheck, or we'll check those so that we remove those as well. But really what we want to get down to is the mountains, not the single mountain ones, because we don't have those in the default map generator. Doesn't create the single mountain icons, or doesn't create terrain with those single mountain icons. But these double ones, or triple ones, because there's a tiny little mountain there, so you got these 3 mountain ones. It does use those. It doesn't use the mixed forest, but I'm just checking it because it's easy to do while I'm here. So I'm going to leave it at that. We're going to apply it, and you're going to see that those icons disappeared. So now what do? We want to get icons back now. Now we're going to go to our features drawer here. Let me drag this out, make it a little bit wider so you can see them. Give it 3 columns of icons. So we got like I said, built into the tool are probably just the first 10 or so of these icons, maybe a few others spattered about here. But the icon set that we downloaded, that we set up, does give us a lot more options. So I'm going to grab one of these icons here, and I'm going to put it in a mountain area here. And if you remember, I'm not trying to be exact right now. In fact, actually, I do need to make a change here. I'm going to select that one. I'm going to set place freely on. Without this place freely being set on, it's trying to fix the center of the icon that we're adding to the center of a hex, and so that's not going to look very good. So now I can pick a different one, and I'm just kind of going to be going through a few of these. Some of these are smaller than others, and we're going to worry about lining them up in a moment to make them look a little bit better. But do I have... Yes, I do have a bunch more down here a little bit further. So let's get some variety here. In fact, the smaller ones, the ones that are just like 2 mountains, are ones that I would use to kind of just fill in some edge cases. Yeah, maybe 2 more or something like that down here, 3 more down here. No, we'll see. We'll see where we end up. So we got that. Now, now I want to worry about, so, and if you notice there closely, it's going to be easiest if I'm kind of working from back to front as I want them displayed. And because they're going to partially overlap, that means the ones further to the north of the map I'm going to want to place down first. Now you're going to see we can adjust that, but it's just going to make things easier if I plan for that up front a little bit. So I'm going to grab this first one, and I'm going to be putting him, say like this. I kind of want him to line up with that hex over here. So I've got that. Here's a mini one, I think. Oh, okay, so it selected the big one here. Let me get this mini one here. So if I pull that mini one, yeah, I do want that mini one in here just to kind of fill in that little bit. This guy here, this mini one over here, if I can grab him. Sometimes when they overlap a lot, you gotta... Oh, that was just all one big one. All right, so let's get that like that. Let's go a little bit over here like that. Let's get this mini one. See, that mini one's not doing me any good because it's off in the water there. Now you're also going to do a coastline generator thing as well. In fact, let me just throw in the coastline generator that automatically does that for us. You can hand do your coastlines as well. For the sake of brevity, I'll just do this, which just gives me a more natural looking coastline and everything. And so that does help out a lot, actually. If I want to change any of those, or if I wanted to do my own coastline from scratch, that's actually in our shapes drawer, and I can do a select. And this is a new improvement here where I can see all of the points that are used. So this just helps me to know how can I select one. Usually for lines, it's the difficulty. For shapes, if you click anywhere in a particular shape, it's going to pick the topmost shape that you're clicking over. But if it's a line, sometimes that's hard to find, and so you got to kind of find the points that make up a line. Whereas a polygon that fills in an area, it's a little bit easier to click that anywhere in the area. On a line, kind of hard to get exactly on the line, so we give you the points, and if you click within a few pixels of a given point, it'll select that line. Anyway, so I can create my shapes, or I can change my shapes by doing this. And you see this little help text here, control drag to move a point, shift click to delete a point, and so forth. So I can control point, and I can grab that point and move it around and stuff. Anyway, back to the main purposes of the demo. So we were selecting these things, and so I can move this one up here, for example, because I want this terrain here. Yeah, and the only problem that will come up, well, so yeah, actually going back to terrain, so say that I've got something that's not placed quite properly terrain-wise, where I've got that hill hex underneath there. Let me filter these. Let's filter these for classic. That just narrows things down. But then I can pick mountains here, and this way here, it just makes my life a little bit easier down there to match all those up. In fact, let's stick with hills too, because we're going to do some hill things in a moment. So let's make these guys hills. Control Z, that last one. All right, back to shapes. I'm sorry, back to the features with the mountains that we were drawing in. And, you know, I might want to put in a handful more down here on the bottom. And because I don't know how dense I want to be, I'm just going to pick a couple more. And you can see how this one here, the one that I had added last, kind of overlapped the wrong way with that one there. So I can do one of two things. I want to show you guys the Z-axis functionality. So I got that one there. It doesn't look right the way it is. It's overlapping. What I can do is I can push it all the way back here, which then doesn't look good because now it's behind this other one over here. So I can then move it up one and keep on doing that until I get it quite right, which actually didn't turn out quite right because I had remembered incorrectly how these guys are set. So now I can move this guy maybe to the front, and that's going to give me the look I want. So you got to play with this Z-axis thing to kind of, and what it's doing is it's looking at how many other shapes is it overlapping, how many other features, I should say in this case, is the feature you've got selected overlapping, and put it behind them all, like put it behind everything. If you do this last button here, put it behind one other, you know, whichever one is immediately behind the one you've got selected. This is going to push it back one more, one behind that one, but it's not going to go further. This is going to push you forward one, so it's going to find the ones that are overlapping. And you know, because things aren't perfectly shaped, you know, it might look like it's not finding one, or it might look like it is finding one, but it's not, vice versa. So you might have to click that a couple times because it might think it's overlapping something that is a transparent area of the icon that you have. So you can understand how that might not work after the first click. You might have to click it a couple of times because it might be saying, hey, this other shape is overlapping, when in fact it's a transparent area that's overlapping. So to you, it doesn't look like it's overlapping. And then this is going to push that selected shape all the way forward to the top. So that's how that works. So if I filtered by mountains. So if I go by hills now hills, we only have a couple of icons in either set, I believe. That yeah. So the base icons from those maps really are just this. Actually, if I do hill, maybe so if I do hill, I get a single one as well, and that's because you know, if you look at those maps, that's basically, they came in pairs usually, but in case if you want to have a one-off over here or over here, oops, it gave me two because there's a little bit of fuzzy math going on there when things are named similarly, because it's thinking, oh, well, maybe you want some variety. So when we're placing a bunch of things in a row, it's going to say, okay, I'm going to give you a fuzzy one. I'm going to give you something similar. And so you just, if that happens and you don't want it, you hit undo, and then you just redo it. So like that last one there, maybe I don't quite want those lined up. But that's the idea behind that. Now, finally, let me do some forest area. So let me find... So here we've got a tropical forest that was there. Now, in the first edition World Style Icons, actually there wasn't any color change background for these for forests. It was just kind of this plain green. So actually, I'm gonna find a plain green area up here. If you want to do it on an area with a hex colored area that's got some color matching, you can do that, but I'm just going to pick and make this large area here all grass, so that I can then set this up. Let me switch back to the features again. So here we have, if we search for tree here, we've got a couple of different styles there. So this is just our one-off trees. I'm going to actually start with a cluster of trees, which is called a forest for this style. And you're seeing some of our isometrics there, but here's what I want. So I've got this tree cluster, this forest cluster here, and I can put several of these down very quickly and make this style map. Now I can, of course, then select those and move them around if I don't quite like, if I had a little bit of a gap in the tree areas and I don't want that, I can get rid of that by moving them closer. I can go back to tree if I don't like that overall shape, if I don't like the fact that I've got that little tree sticking out by itself there, and I can pick a few more. Now, of course, here I'm going to have to play around with this. I'm going to have to select that guy there and then push him down to the back, but now he's too far back, so I bring him forward a little bit, and actually the issue is that the other guy is too far back. So I push him back, and then I get my guy here, and then push him back, and then forward 1, forward 2, forward 3. There we go. That's what I wanted. So I just wanted to hide the tree trunk. Of course, you don't want the tree trunk on top of the tree in front. So you can see how that works. It's another example of what I was trying to do with the mountains, and maybe that's a little bit more clear. Or at least it gives you another example of seeing it. So if it went too fast last time, maybe that time was better. Of course, you can replay this and slow it down. So if you remember these World of Greyhawk style maps, see there I said it. If you remember these first edition world style maps, the desert area was roughly like this. It's not too much different, although we certainly could provide some some more random sand, but that's pretty close. So anyway, in the sake of having this not take forever, or not go on and me ramble, let me wrap up and oh, actually, no, this is just, well, I'm sure you can understand that we can just change this terrain here that's sticking out here. Like, so that particular piece of terrain, maybe I want to make that some plain farmland there. So I do that. And then for the shape, I would have to go into shapes here and select that shape, for example, and then set the color to, we've got these helper colors on the bottom here which match up the most commonly used colors, and then I can deselect it. Control D will deselect a shape for me, and then I can pick this one here, and then likewise change the color there for that one, and then Control, well, now if I pick anything else. So that's what I wanted to get across to you guys. I hope that's helpful. Again, if I can pull up the particular, nope, I don't have it handy anymore. But if you remember, if you go to your users folder, so in my case, since my username is Joe on this computer, it's C:users Joe Worldographer, and then create a features folder. And then in this case, since we want these to be filtered by large area, we create a large area folder as well, and then stick all of the icons that we want in there. And then you'll get them all if you wanted. We've got a large number of sets that end up being classified as large area, but this lets you get, you can narrow it down with this other filter too if you just want to see the mountains and so forth, as you saw. And then of course the configure terrain. That's the important step here, is to configure terrain, pick classic, and check the box to remove the image for all the things that you want to remove to match up with the first edition world style icons. So I hope that's helpful. Again, my name is Joe Wetzel. I'm the creator of Worldographer, and that's what this demo is about for the first edition world style icons. We run a Patreon. If you're interested in supporting us, supporting the software, we allow you to vote on new icon sets that we make each month, as well as new features that we add to the program. And I hope the tool allows you to make some great looking maps.